Over the past 15 years, I've seen the data for more than 1,000 accounting firms all over the world, which allows me to see what separates the high-performance firms from the ones that get stuck. Being more focused does not necessarily mean you are more productive. We work 40 hours per week and we do 45 hours. It doesn't mean that necessarily that our productivity is going to go up. Your productivity really is your yardstick to understand how you're performing against the other firms. The value of looking deeper than the surface level write-offs to look at them at a job level. Growing an accounting firm is a game of hiring to create capacity, then onboarding clients to fill this capacity, and then hiring again. You then repeat this process over and over. My name is McTavish and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Link. We provide practice management for high-performance accounting firms. My goal with these videos is to teach you the art of running a firm, which is centered around 5 core principles and how they all play together. The highest productivity I have ever seen an accounting firm achieve is 73%, and the lowest is 38%. And there's a 35% difference between these two firms. This means that the high-performance firm is doing nearly double the output of the other firm. Now, there's a caveat with these numbers, as I have seen higher than 73% productivity in the past, but that was for smaller firms. The 2 firms that I just used as this example both have more than 50 full-time employees. My name is McTavish and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Link. We provide practice management for high-performance accounting firms. Over the past 15 years, I've seen the data for more than 1,000 accounting firms all over the world, which allows me to see what separates the high-performance firms from the ones that get stuck. Now, with these videos, my aim is to teach you the art of firm management, which is centered around 5 core principles and how they all play together. Now, in this video, I want to take you through an understanding of productivity and how high-performance firms are structured. Now, the first thing to understand is high-performance firms optimize for productivity. So, what is productivity? Productivity is the ratio of billable time to total time worked. Put more simply, work that is productive is assigned a billable rate. Now, work that is non-productive does not have a billable rate. Now, there's a formula we use to calculate productivity. And this formula is productivity equals billable time divided by total time. Now, I want to highlight some examples here. So what we're going to look at is some weekly timesheet calculations. Now we have billable hours and we have non-billable hours, giving us our total hours, and that's what's used to calculate our productivity. We also have leave here. Leave is when we're not working. And we have all hours and then finally our productivity. So we've got our 5 days of the week, and let's look at some numbers here. So let's say on Monday we did 6 billable hours, we did 2 non-billable hours, giving us a total of 8 hours. No leave was taken. So our productivity on Monday is 75% because we spent 75% of our time doing client work. Now, on Tuesday, we did 4 hours billable. We did 4 hours non-billable, which would mean our productivity on Tuesday is 50%. Now, at our week total, we've got 10 hours total of billable time and we've got 16 hours total hours, giving us 62.5% productivity. Now, on Wednesday, let's say that we took the day off. So we took a day of leave. So what we've got here is our total hours have not changed. Leave does not affect productivity, therefore our total hours have not changed. But if we look at our all hours, there's 24 hours we have been paid for. So our productivity for Wednesday does not exist, but our total productivity for this week has not changed. We're still at 62.5%. And I wanted to show you this example to show you that leave does not impact productivity, because there are people that are concerned that if they go on leave, their productivity will drop. That's not the case. So I want to dispel a few common myths around productivity. Now, the first one is being more focused does not mean you are more productive. Now, in common language, we say that we're productive when we're focused, when we can sit down and get things done. And there's a lot of productivity hack videos out there on YouTube about how to be more productive. Now, in a business context, it's as simple as doing client work versus non-client work. Simple as that. So being more focused does not necessarily mean you are more productive. Now, rework is productive work. This is another common myth. Now, if we're doing rework, that is productive work, but we write that time off. So rework creates write-offs, but it does not mean that you are less productive. So to sum that up, all client work is productive work, which means internal work is non-productive. So working longer does not necessarily make you more productive. So if we contract to work 40 hours per week and we do 45 hours, it doesn't mean that necessarily our productivity is going to go up because we may be doing non-billable activities on those extra hours. So working longer will not increase your productivity. Taking leave does not reduce your productivity, which we've just seen in the last example. And a really big one here is utilization is different than productivity. And this is where the confusion often happens between productivity and utilization. People work longer to push up their utilization, but it does not mean that your productivity is necessarily going to climb at the same rate that your utilization would. Now, what is utilization? So we've seen productivity. What is utilization? So utilization is actual billable time divided by our contracted time minus leave multiplied by our expected productivity. So it's quite different here. So the top of our formula is the same as the actual billable time we've done, but then what we're doing with utilization is we're baking in our expectations into the second part of the equation. All right, so to highlight the difference between productivity and utilization, I've got an example here. So let's say Jenny Jameson, her expected productivity is 75%, and she's contracted to work 40 hours per week, which means if she's 75% productive, we're expecting 30 of those hours should be spent on client work. All makes sense, right? So her actual client hours were 32. Her internal hours were 10, which means she's done 42 hours, 8 hours leave. So her total hours were her actual client hours and her total internal hours, giving us 42, and her all hours were 50. So despite Jenny taking leave, she's obviously had so much work on, she's had to come in on Saturday or come in on the weekend or put some evenings in to catch up on that time. So she's done 42 hours in total in the office despite taking a day's leave. Now, how does this affect her productivity and utilization? So we've got a productivity formula here, and then we've got our utilization formula here. Now, let's put some figures in here. So her productivity, we have 32 hours of actual time divided by her total hours, which is 42. Now for utilization, we've got the same top of the formula, 32. Now her contracted time was 40 hours minus the leave taken, which arrives us at 32 hours, multiplied by her target productivity, which is 75%, giving us 24 hours. So her productivity, 76%. And her utilization is 101%. So these are wildly different numbers. So the problem with utilization is it encourages our team members to work long hours, because if she's trying to hit 100% utilization, it means she needs to come back in and work those extra hours to keep her utilization up. So utilization can lie to you. So at a firm level, we want to be looking at our productivity, and that way we can benchmark where we should be sitting against other firms. With utilization, because our assumptions are baked into that formula, because we're putting our expected productivity for each team member into that formula, everyone can be 100% productivity, but we've got really poor firm structure. So our utilization might look great, but our productivity could look terrible. So productivity can be measured by individual, team, or at a firm level, and that's because all individuals, teams, and the firm, we have both productive and non-productive time. We can't have productivity on a client, and we can't have productivity on jobs, because all of our client work and all of our jobs are all billable time, so productivity doesn't exist in that context. But a team member has both billable and non-billable time. Teams also have billable and non-billable. And of course, a firm also has billable and non-billable time, so we can calculate our productivity on all three of these things. Now, you should aim at 55% productivity at a firm level. Now, we've benchmarked across multiple countries, across multiple years, and we've found that productivity on average sits between 54 and 56%. So we're very confident in saying the average firm should be aiming at 55% or above for your productivity. So high performance firms are operating above 55%. Now, this is very important. If we get our ratio of administrators to billable people wrong, we will find ourselves in a situation where we don't have enough cash to create more capacity to bring on new clients, and we find ourselves stuck. Very, very important to understand this. So much so that I've got an example lined up for you. Let's look at a team here. So we've got this team of 5 team members, and we've got David, who's the partner, Jane, Henry, and Tim are accountants, and Kate is our administrator. And we're going to look at some values here. So let's say David, being a partner, has a 50% productivity, so we've got a 800-hour split between billable and internal time. His rate's $250 an hour, revenue's $200, and his cost is $120. That's the salary that we're paying David. Give us a gross profit of $80,000. We've got Jane with 81% target productivity, rate's $150 an hour. We've got our revenue, cost, and our gross profit on Jane is $95,000. Henry, same. Let's say Tim, slightly lower productivity, but we have a lower cost on Tim because he's perhaps one of our more junior team members. Then we have Kate, and Kate is our administrator. So we have $80,000 cost for Kate, but no revenue generated, therefore a negative gross profit of $80,000. So at a firm level, our productivity is 58%, so we're above 55%, so we're looking good. So our revenue is $770,000. So our gross profit is $290,000, less our overheads, giving us a net profit of $140,000. So this is a good little firm here. So we're making some profits. Our productivity is above 55%. We have cash to then hire our next team member so we can grow the firm. So keep in mind that this is assuming the firm is working at capacity. So we have enough clients to keep all of these people busy. So what do? We're going to hire another team member. So let's hire James. So we hire James, which is obviously going to take a hit to our cash flow, but then we make sure that James has got enough work on. And once James is at capacity, he's at 75%, then he's bringing an extra $80,000 of gross profit for us per year. So then our total is going to look even better. We're now 60% productive at a firm level, and our gross profits increased. Slight increase to our overheads, but we're now got a $200,000 net profit. So again, we've got that cash to invest in hiring our next team member. But at this point, Kate's really stressed. She's trying to manage onboarding. She's trying to manage a lot of compliance. She's trying to manage all of the finances and help manage the team. She's completely overwhelmed. So she comes to you, or comes to David as the partner, and says, look, I need some help. I need someone to take over this marketing and the onboarding for me. I need someone to take over the finances and all the reconciliations for me. So we hire Mike and we hire Sue. So what happens now at a firm level is we're still doing the same amount of billable work, but our internal hours have skyrocketed. So our productivity is now 45%. So we're under that 55%. We're actually under 50%, which is the bottom I'd ever recommend. If you're under 50%, never hire administrators. And this is what we've done in this situation. We haven't kept on top of this. We've hired 2 administrators. We find ourselves at 45% productivity. So when we look at our gross profit, $210,000, less our overheads, we're now got negative $10,000 net profit. So the problem we have now is this firm is stuck. It can no longer hire new team members to create more capacity to grow the firm. So the only thing we can do in this situation is wait for our administrators to resign, or we can look at doing a restructure from an administrative perspective. So this is a firm that is officially stuck, and that's because we haven't been keeping an eye on our target productivity. Now, how does utilization look? Let's have a look here. So utilization. Now, David, 100% utilized, assuming that we have filled our capacity for each team member. So our firm has 100% utilization. So we might think that we're doing well, but when we look at our actual productivity based on our capacity, 45% is as high as we can go. So this is an example of a firm that might look at the utilization and think they're doing really well, but in reality, they're really struggling. Now, high performance firms have a very deliberate structure with clear roles in the organization. So let's look at an example of how to grow a firm from a startup to a $5 million turnover. So we're going to look at what each hire looks like and what role we put them into. All right, so this is our growth plan. So we've got partners, administrators, managers, and accountants. And we've got 1 partner, we've got 1 administrator. We don't have any managers at this stage because that work's being done by the partner. And we have 1 accountant. So we've got 3 team members, and we've got partners full-time, admin is 20 hours per week, and our accountant is also full-time. So this is where we sort of find ourselves as like a sort of a startup firm, and we're going to look at how we're going to grow this. Now we can bring through our hours per year and our target capacity. So ideally, we want to be aiming for 80% productivity for our billable team members. And you'll see here, that's where I've put this accountant. Now the partner is 75% because the partner also needs to be working with the accountant and the administrator. So there's sort of admin activities and some management that the partner needs to be doing. So we look at reducing our partner's productivity target capacity as the firm grows, right? So then we get our billable rate, so $250 an hour for the partner, and then our accountant's $200 an hour. So then we've got our target billable hours, giving us our non-billable hours. Our target productivity is exactly the same as our target capacity. Our target capacity looks forward. It looks at what we plan to bring on in terms of our billable work. Target productivity is how much billable work we actually did. So productivity looks backwards, capacity looks forwards. So we have 62% as our target productivity at a firm level. So there's a good little firm here. So we've got our target revenue, looking at $556,000 of target revenue. So a good little startup firm here. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to have our next hire. So we're going to hire our second accountant. When we do this, We've now got 4 team members. So we've now got 80 hours in the accounting team now per week. We've got hours per year. Now our target capacity, I've dropped the partner down from 75% down to 70%. And that's to recognize that this partner is now looking after another team member. So billable rates haven't changed. Target billable hours, productivity, again, it's the same as our target capacity. And we're now at 65.7 target productivity. So we're a really high productive firm here, giving us just under $800,000 of revenue. That's at capacity, remember. This is assuming that everyone's list is full up to their target capacity. Now, our next hire. Now we're going to hire another accountant and we're going to promote a manager. So we're going to take maybe our first accountant we hired, promote them to manager, and we hire another accountant. And at this point, we may want to increase our administrator to full-time as well, because 20 hours a week, probably not enough time to get all of this work done given the size of the team now. So we're doing 200 hours per week, that's giving us 8,000 hours per year. Now our target capacity for the partner, we've dropped down to 65%, just to recognize that we've got another team member on board. Now accountants are always at 80%. Now our manager is 70%, because we want our manager at 80%, but then we're providing a 5% discount per team member that this manager is managing. Now with a manager, we need to be, their time should be reviewing and working on big, difficult jobs and getting those reviewed by the partner, but also reviewing the work for our team. So this manager has 2 accountants, so the primary job will be reviewing the work for the accountants, but their job is also with that because that's all billable work. The other job for our manager is to be managing the workflow and capacity of our team members. So they need to be managing their team. So they've got themselves and their 2 accountants. There's 3 people, including themselves, that they need to be managing in terms of a workflow and capacity planning perspective. Now, our billable rate, we've put our partner up now to $300 per hour. So recognize that we've got this manager now that can take on that work at $250 an hour. So this is a big step now, bringing in a manager, because now we have sort of 3 layers of that hierarchy there in the firm. So we've got our hours, we've got our target productivity, which is identical to our target capacity. 59%, so we're still above that 55%. So this is a high performance firm. And we have now cracked $1 million in turnover with our 5 team members. Great, so let's do our next hire. So what we're going to do next is we're going to bring on another accountant. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reduce our partner's target capacity again, and our manager's target capacity also gets reduced because they should be at 80%, less our 3 team members at 5% each, they're at 65%. The billable rates haven't changed, but obviously our target billable hours are dropped down slightly by the partner and the manager to recognize the team's grown. There's a bit more admin for them, a bit more management work to do. Our target productivity and our target revenue, we're now at 1.3 million in revenue. Now, our next hire here, hire another accountant. Again, we're going to have that reduction of capacity for the partner and also for the managers. So the manager's now at 60% because 20% of their time should be focused on managing the workflow and the capacity for their team. The other 60% will be spent on, so if we look at it from 20% is general administrative activities, team meetings and everything else that needs to happen, training, upskilling, 20% is managing the team, 60% for that billable work that they need to be doing. So then we've got our billable hours, non-billable hours, target productivity, and our revenue is now at 1.5 million on a 62% productivity. So higher productivity, higher revenue we're seeing here. Great. So our next hire is we hire another accountant and promote another manager. We sort of want to get teams of 5, so 1 manager to 4 accountants, 5 in the team. That's what we want to be aiming. And once we need to hire that next accountant, we don't want to have 1 manager to 5 accountants. That's becoming a little bit of too much of a big team for that manager to be managing. So we want to have another manager, and then we go and change our team around. So we now have 2 managers managing 2 people each. So 8 team members. And what we're going to do now is our target capacity for our managers has gone from 60% up to 70% because they're now only managing 2 people each. And then bring this through to our productivity. We're now at 63.8%, $1.8 million in turnover. Now, our next hire, we may decide that we need to hire another administrator because there could be too much admin happening in the firm at this point. So we bring on another administrator. So the partner's productivity or target capacity I've pulled down, but what we're going to notice now is our productivity has taken a big dive down to 56.7%. So it's almost touched that 55%. You can see hiring administrators has a really big impact on our productivity, but we haven't quite hit the 55, and we're going to start climbing again as the firm grows. So obviously our revenue has not changed. Now our next hire is going to be another accountant. So we now got 5 accountants. And then we recognize the adjustment in the manager's capacity. We also pull the partners down. So every hire, we're slowly bringing that capacity down for our partner. Pull these through, and then our productivity is now climbing up at 58% again. We're heading back up now that we're hiring more billable people. $2 million turnover. Now, next what we're going to do is we're going to jump a little bit further ahead. So we've seen how we've taken a firm from startup to 2 million. I want to jump ahead to look at what an optimal structure would look like under one partner. You may have two partners, and obviously you just massage this based on your situation. But now we've got one partner, 3 administrators, 4 managers, and 16 accountants. So we've got 4 teams of 5 people. So 24 on the team. 38,000 hours per year. Now, our partner's target capacity I've pulled down to 30%. Now, that could be 50%, it could be 40%, 30, it might even be 20. This is just a rule of thumb, but we do want our partners still doing a little bit of billable work. We want to keep their hand in the work, and that's going to be, as you'll see in a moment, at a higher rate. So once you get your capacity for the partner right down, you want to put that rate up, because now we're going to be looking after a very specific set of clients that are going to be really high value. So we want to make sure that our partners are doing only very high value work. Our target productivity here is going to be 64. So basically it's 65%. So a super high performance firm here, looking really good. And our revenue, we're looking at $5.2 million. So if we can get this structure in place, we're going to be looking at some serious profits coming out of the firm for this partner here. So you may have 2 partners, or the structure might change slightly, but this is just a general rule of thumb of how you want to grow a high performance firm. So that is how you would structure a high performance firm. If you have found this video useful, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'd love to know in the comments what part of the video you found most useful. So I hope your firm is doing really well, and I'll see you in the next video.